Frank Duff had a great dream. He envisaged a group of Catholic lay people getting together to bring Christ into today's world. They would dedicate themselves to Mary Immaculate, and they would organize themselves on the lines of the ancient Roman legion. The members of this army of peace and service would bring the gospel into hearts which were yearning for Christ. This is the headquarters of this now worldwide organization. Every year, visitors from all over the world come here. They're shown the photographs of those who have given their time and in some cases their lives to this organization. Here, the visitors sign in. Among the names of those who have in the past signed this visitor's book is that of Edel Quinn. Every legionary knows this name. Edel Quinn was born on 14th September 1907 in Kanturk, County Cork. She had 3 sisters and 1 brother, and for many years they moved from town to town because of her father's job in the bank. Eventually, in 1924, the family settled in Monkstown, County Dublin. At school, she was a spirited youngster who enjoyed tennis, golf, and other sports. She is also remembered as being a little imp, and later as a graceful and charming girl who loved dancing and playing the piano. When she finished school, she started work as a secretary in Chagney Tile Works in Dublin. It was here that she met Pierre, a Frenchman who proposed to her. She turned him down, since she had it in mind to join the Poor Clares, a contemplative order in Belfast. She told him that she had promised her life to God. Unhappily, due to ill health, she was prevented from joining the order. It was around this time that Edel joined the Legion, the organization that had been established by Mr. Frank Duff. At this time, the organization did visitation in homes, hospitals, and other institutions. They also organized a project among the prostitutes in the slum areas of Dublin. Edel joined and very soon proved herself a worthy and hard-working legionary, spending many evenings doing legionary work. Within 2 years, she was sent as president of a presidium working with street girls. The people who knew her then were aware of how frail she was, and yet her personality and her approach lifted her fellow legionaries. In 1931, she made her attempt to join the Poor Clares and was to enter in 1932, but she fell suddenly ill. Advanced tuberculosis was diagnosed, and as a result she was ordered to go to Newcastle Sanatorium in County Wicklow. She stayed there for 18 months. During her stay, she was a happy person who cheered all around her. She did not complain about her illness, but tried to help her fellow patients. She was ordered to rest. In 1933, she left Newcastle, got a new job, and resumed her legionary work. At this stage, for 3 years later, her health started to improve. The Legion was spreading to other parts of Ireland and Great Britain. Edel went to Menevia in North Wales on a 2-week project to promote the work of the Legion there. She came home tired, but quite convinced that she wanted to work full-time as a legionary. Perhaps in England. By 1936, the Legion had spread to the United States and even to Africa. The Catholic authorities in East Africa were very anxious to have an envoy from the Legion working there. One Carmelite priest, Father McGuinness, was very much against it because he was aware of the dangers, the primitive conditions and the diseases which are part and parcel of Africa. But Edel knew of these and still wanted to go. Father McGuinness gave her his blessing, saying, "Go off on your mission, Edel. God himself summons you to it." On October 24, 1936, Edel left Ireland. She sailed to Africa aboard the passenger liner Llangibby Castle.
Now, in the lifetime and the closing time of Pope Paul, he sent over his secretary, Father McGee, and asked us to give him a letter from Edel Quinn's correspondence, a letter which we thought was the most distinctive, characteristic document which ever proceeded from her. Well, now, at first thought that was asking us an impossibility, because she wrote at least a couple of letters every week, apart from others. And to pick out from that would be, well, impossibility. But as it was, one letter jumped to our thought, and it was this letter that she wrote. And it was a letter saying goodbye and promising to serve us faithfully. The letter is in her life in facsimile.
Yes, right.
That's the letter we sent to the Pope, where she rendered all her feelings. But then very typically she said, "I will never again refer to this subject." And she never did. She never let the softer side out again.
Her first letter home was memorable. "I could not say thanks, as I was afraid of breaking down, perhaps. But it is good to feel that one is trusted, and it will be a help in the days to come. I would like you to remember always, whatever happens, that I am glad you gave me the opportunity of going. I realize it's a privilege, and also that only you persisted. I personally would never have been sent. I only hope I do not fail the Legion when the work comes to be done." On November 23rd, she disembarked at Mombasa. She went to Nairobi, where she intended having her Legion headquarters. Nairobi was, at that time, changing from being a bush town to be a centre of East African business life. There were sharp differences between the different groups in language, dress, and living standards. The Catholics of Nairobi were concentrated in their own areas and made no attempt to welcome others to join their faith. The first work Edel explained to them was to give religious instructions to a group of 14 children she knew. Thus, the Presidium of the Immaculate Conception was formed. This was the first of Edel's African presidia. She had lots of difficulties to overcome. The Goans and the Europeans were reluctant to accept a woman as an organizer. However, her confident manner won them over to her side. To conquer the language barrier, she got the Tessera translated into Swahili and 6 other African dialects.
So she was in a state of constant movement like that. And this began to prove that she had to get transport So she wrote to us and said she'd have to get a car. So we made, gave her the permission order, but made the condition that she was not, except in towns, she was not to drive it herself. And she gave the that, she promised that. So she bought this, what she called her Rolls Royce. It was a Ford model, and she paid £40 for it. So you can guess as to its excellence.
By 1937, she had founded enough presidia to establish a curia. At the ceremonies marking the initiation of the curia, the ethnic barriers were broken down when priests preached in Swahili and English. Archbishop Antonio Riberi, the papal nuncio to Africa, wrote to 32 bishops under his direction, recommending Edel Quinn's work to them. She was invited by them to start the Legion in their diocese. In the next 4 years, she travelled ceaselessly, from Kenya to Zanzibar, to Uganda, to Tanganyika, and even to Mauritius and the Indian Ocean. In January 1940, she braved the waters of the Indian Ocean, sailed to the island of Mauritius. Here she had to speak French, so her days in Chagny works came in useful. Mauritius had all creeds, colours and races for inhabitants. Within 9 months, she established 30 presidia in 19 different parishes, and in setting up these, she was most insistent on conformity to the Legion Handbook. Mauritius did a great deal of harm to her health. At the end of August 1940, Edel travelled from Mauritius to Durban. In September 1940, she visited Nyasaland, where she started the Legion in 3 different parishes. Unfortunately, the journey from one place to another on a bicycle in the tremendous heat told on her, and finally she collapsed.
She was immobilized for some time, in a couple of convalescent homes. And then we got word that she was going to resume her envoyship. And we telegraphed out to her prohibiting her from doing this. And there came back from her a medical certificate from the doctor saying that it would be better, in his opinion, that she would go up to Nairobi and where she was at the moment in South Africa. We could do nothing. Off she went.
She continued her work, and within a short time had re-established her links with legionaries working in Kenya and other parts of East Africa. All this she did by mail. In May 1943, although she could hardly walk, she went on an 80-mile car journey on a missionary project. In December 1943, Edel began a 6-week extension tour in Tanganyika. Here she caught cold and started to lose weight very quickly. But she did not stop. Her determination knew no bounds, and people working with her marvelled at her efforts to fight the tuberculosis that was gradually eating up her strength. In March 1944, she left Nairobi to travel to another part of Kenya, but the combination of tropical heat and damp climate eventually forced her to return to Nairobi a month earlier than she had planned. At 6:15 on May 12th, 1944, one of the legionaries, a Miss Gannon, arrived to see Edel at the convent. She knew that Edel usually sat in a sun shelter in the convent grounds. But she had hardly taken a few steps towards the couch when she heard a cry, then a moan. Edel had bent her head, and with a last breath, she said, "Jesus, Jesus." As a delicate mark of their affection, the sisters led Edel out for her last sleep in the white habit of their order. Father Tirogli, a postulator for causes in Rome, said of her, "I have been able to refresh my spirit by once again dipping into the life of that incredible person." The process leading towards canonization begins at the diocesan level. An exhaustive search of the candidate's writings, speeches, and sermons is undertaken, and eyewitness accounts are gathered. The candidate, who is called Servant of God, is presented by the local bishop to the congregation for the causes of the saints. When enough information has been gathered, the congregation will recommend to the Pope that he make a proclamation. From this point, the candidate is referred to by the title Venerable. Beatification is a statement by the Church that the person is in heaven. The new title is Blessed. To be canonized a saint, at least 2 miracles must have been performed after death. On December 15, 1994, Pope John Paul II declared Edel Quinn venerable. One miracle attributed to her intercession is still required for her beatification.
First of all, she was magnificent. Now, no words could describe what an extraordinary personality she had. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. She was a radiant sort of individual. She was one of the most charming people that you could meet. Utterly and absolutely convinced about the Legion, and with a wonderful gift of persuasion. On one occasion at least, you don't know how often it happened, but on one occasion at least she fasted for 17 hours to get Holy Communion. That frail girl. And of course her courage was the courage of 100 lions. When I was speaking at the tribunal, at the canonization tribunal, they asked me at the very end. I was 3 days under questioning at that all day long. And when they said to me at the very, very end, had I any comment I'd like to make, I said that, well, that the chief one was that if she were not canonizable, that I just simply wouldn't know what the whole thing was about.